I'm Tony Sklar with BNet TV. We are here at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, and I am speaking with Tekelec's Mr. Jason Emery. How are you today, sir?
I'm great, thanks.
Excellent. Listen, for all of our first-time viewers there in BNet TV land, explain to us what Tekelec is, where you're positioned with the ecosystem, and then let's get into some of the topics that you want to discuss.
Yeah, so Tekelec is a core signaling provider. We have a whole suite of solutions addressing both LTE and 3G networks from a diameter perspective. We address all kinds of issues related to delivering highly scalable, reliable, and flexible networks into an LTE and a 3G environment.
So, a lot of people would say that that sounds quite technical and they're not really understanding, but when it comes to the movement of data and how that moves through the network, there are a lot of challenges that exist.
Absolutely. I think you've probably heard about some of the issues related to signaling storms and the idea that devices as they come onto the network and applications as they come onto the network are driving a lot more signaling that causes issues for carriers. What you may not know is that as carriers start to get involved in the revenue associated with over-the-top application providers and devices, that they're going to generate even more signaling of a diameter nature. And that diameter signaling is something that they want to have in their network, and they need to be able to address those signaling storms as well.
So, as more devices hit the market space, whether it's the 7-inch tablet versus a 12-inch tablet versus a lot of different home-connected devices, M2M solutions, that movement of data, the general consumer neglects the idea that, well, I just want to see what I want to see. I want to see my video. I want to, check my Facebook. I want to do all of this stuff, and I want to utilize this data from multiple different areas. They don't really know what network congestion kind of looks like.
That's right.
And the legacy systems that were in place, SS7 or whatever it happened to have been,
right,
they're no longer sufficient enough to handle that.
Right, that makes sense. And I guess what you really see is carriers starting to get involved in over-the-top application delivery, being able to provide things like free access to your Facebook or usage-based plans or kinds of services that carriers can offer because they own the network, like quality of service, enhanced video performance, and that kind of thing. All those different types of applications drive additional signaling, drive diameter traffic onto the carrier's network, and so they need an integrated solution that drives both policy, uses subscriber data, and then connects together with routing so that they can have one holistic solution to that signaling problem.
Okay, so you brought up a really good point about policy because, there has been a shift within the ecosystem, when it comes to policy management and standards and, what's going to work and what's not going to work when moving from 3G, 2G, 3G to 4G. And as long as my Netflix works on my tablet while I'm in one area, it's got to work on another network in another area, and Tekelec has a solution for that.
Absolutely. We provide the ability to do roaming between networks. We also have a product that is standards-based but also can interoperate in a non-standard way as well. So we can address issues associated with interoperability between devices as well as across networks.
What are some of the statistics that you've seen when implementing that type of architecture and infrastructure within the systems that you've just brought out that have sort of wowed you?
Yeah, so as an example, Apple posts on their website that they've got over 200 million subscribers to their iTunes store, and most of those subscribers access their data via mobile data networks. And then Facebook has 800 million subscribers. Facebook has more subscribers than any mobile carrier in the world, and 100 million of those subscribers access their data over mobile data networks, so just huge numbers.
So you're bringing up a really good point. I'm glad you just want to talk about Facebook and the amount of subscribers that they actually have. With their IPO coming up, there's going to be a lot more analysts looking to understand what it means for a subscriber to access that data and what the inevitable flow through for ARPU is back to the carrier, because inevitably Facebook is an over-the-top provider. They're not paying for that usage.
Absolutely. The GSM Association even predicts that $1.2 trillion worth of revenue is going to be generated in 2020 for mobile data. And in order for carriers to gain access to that, they need to be able to implement things like policy control and subscriber data management and diameter routing just to be able to get involved in the ecosystem that's out there for that $1.2 trillion of revenue.
So again, back to the standards and best practice policies. There isn't a standard out there. I mean, diameter is obviously the flavor that's being shifted. I think carriers are adopting at a more rapid pace, but still not policy.
Yeah, so policy control is part of the 3GPP defined standards, and diameter is the protocol that's used for policy control. And so I think that what you'll see is as carriers try and get involved in that ecosystem that's driving all that revenue, they'll use policy control to do that. They'll also need subscriber data, and they'll need a routing layer to tie it all together.
One last thing that I kind of wanted to mention is that the carriers, or we're seeing the carriers try to drive different rate plans back to their end users. So a subscriber might be able to only see a Facebook or a social media type situation versus not being able to access Netflix on their device because they're looking at getting different subscriber plans in place, which brings us back to the idea of different policy management.
You know, it's funny, Tony. You just described a policy use case, and so what we're seeing is that carriers are being very inventive.
I should have let you do that.
They're being very inventive and very creative, and so not only do they need a policy control function, but they need one that's standalone, and they need one that is based on a rules engine, because they need to be very nimble. They need to be able to deploy new use cases very quickly. They don't want to have to rely on software development or professional services to come in and implement those use cases.
So this is where Tekelec makes a good partner back to the carrier, is making sure that they can roll out those types of I don't want to say infrastructure, but roll out those types of plans, use cases.
Absolutely. So Tekelec is a partner. All of our products are built on the same idea, that you provide a flexible and scalable and reliable infrastructure with a rules-based engine to allow the carrier to implement those services on their own.
Jason, thank you very much for taking the opportunity to speak with us here today, and I hope we get a chance for another update again in the future. Tekelec's a fantastic company and positioned very well in the market space.
Thanks, Tony.
I've been speaking with Jason Emery of Tekelec here at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. I am Tony Sklar with BNet TV.